Ancient Egypt, with its towering pyramids, legendary pharaohs, and stunning art, is a civilization that continues to captivate the modern imagination. We often admire the Egyptians for their monumental achievements in architecture, medicine, and culture. However, beneath their elegant facade lies a darker, more bizarre side of history that is rarely discussed. From strange medical practices to unconventional methods of gender fluidity, this ancient civilization had some truly repulsive secrets. Let's dive into the unusual and sometimes outright disgusting ways the Egyptians lived, cared for their bodies, and interacted with the world around them. The shepherd of the rear. In medieval England, the title of groom of the stool was reserved for a person tasked with maintaining the hygiene of the king's rear. This strange role, which involved wiping the monarch's behind, may seem like a grotesque invention of the past. But the origins of this job actually trace back thousands of years to ancient Egypt. In fact, the Egyptians had a medical specialist known as the shepherd of the royal anus, a position that would make even the most seasoned proctologist shudder. The role of Niru Payhut, or shepherd of the rear, was essential for the health of the pharaohs. Pharaohs were viewed as divine figures, which meant they required extra attention in every aspect of life, including their most intimate bodily functions. The shepherd's job wasn't limited to just wiping, but extended to administering enemas, a common medical practice in Egypt. These cleanses were not just physical, but were also rooted in the Egyptians' belief that the rear end was a source of wekadu, a corrupting substance that needed to be purged for health and spiritual balance. Historians like Herodotus and Diodorus Siculus tell us that these specialists enjoyed high prestige in society because of the intimate role they played in maintaining the pharaoh's health. One of the most famous shepherds was a physician named Iranche, who lived around 2200 BC. His medical title was found inscribed on a recycled door at Giza. The Egyptians were so concerned with rear-end hygiene that they made it a prominent part of their medical practices, even extending this focus to the common people. The laxative obsession. Ancient Egyptians, like today's Instagram influencers, were obsessed with their appearance. While today's celebrities often rely on expensive beauty treatments or surgical procedures to maintain their slim physiques, ancient Egyptian royalty had a simpler and more immediate solution: laxatives. To maintain a slim, muscular body, many royal figures would take laxatives made from castor oil at least 3 times a month. This would ensure that they could eat lavishly while still adhering to the beauty standards of the day. However, there's a terrifying side effect to this ancient practice. Egyptians would often spend their entire day in the bathroom, essentially relying on the laxatives to purge excess weight without lifting a finger. It's even more unsettling when we consider the lack of plumbing during this time. Egyptian toilets were an indoor luxury, but the idea of modern laxatives combined with unsanitary conditions paints a rather grim picture of life in the royal chambers. Ancient pregnancy tests. Ancient Egyptians had unique methods for determining pregnancy, some of which seem odd today. One test involved urinating on bags of barley and wheat seeds. If the barley sprouted first, it was thought the woman was carrying a boy, while wheat sprouting indicated a girl. This method had surprising accuracy, working about 70% of the time. If this test failed, another method involved drinking a concoction of beer and dates. Vomiting afterward was considered a sign of pregnancy. Additionally, Egyptian doctors might insert garlic or onion into a woman's genitals, and if the smell appeared on her breath the next morning, it indicated readiness for childbirth. Some physicians also performed intimate examinations, rubbing oil on the body to declare whether a woman was pregnant or ready to bear children. Misunderstanding menstruation. Despite their advancements in many fields, the ancient Egyptians were far from accurate when it came to understanding the human body. For instance, they believed that men experienced menstruation just like women. This notion was rooted in the fact that many Egyptian men exhibited blood in their excrement, a symptom that could have been caused by the widespread disease schistosomiasis. But instead of diagnosing the real issue, the Egyptians concluded that this blood was akin to menstruation and thought it to be a normal part of the male body. The Egyptians also believed that parasitic infections were beneficial, with healthy men being those who hosted a large number of parasites. ancient harassment, and women's rights. Despite some advancements, women in ancient Egypt faced social oppression. While they had legal rights and could hold power, they were often regarded as inferior. One oppressive custom involved harassment during religious festivals. Herodotus described how men would expose themselves and engage in catcalling while sailing on the Nile, making this behavior a cultural norm. Additionally, many men believed women needed to be controlled, using love potions made from disturbing ingredients like dandruff from dead men, barley apple pips, and semen to influence or coerce women into relationships. The effectiveness of these potions is unclear, but the widespread practice is disturbing. Torture and punishment. Ancient Egypt had an extremely harsh legal system, especially regarding betrayal and punishment. After a failed assassination attempt on Pharaoh Ramses III, those involved and even palace workers were severely punished for not reporting the crime, with their ears being chopped off. Interrogations often involved physical torture, such as binding suspects to stakes and beating them. Witnesses were also tortured and were made to imagine their own punishment if they were lying. This psychological torment instilled fear and discouraged false testimony. The expensive mummification industry. Death in ancient Egypt was an expensive affair, especially for the wealthy. The elaborate mummification process, which involved removing organs, drying out the body with natron salt and wrapping it in linen, was a costly and intricate operation. The best mummification treatments could cost an astronomical 30 kilograms, 66 pounds of silver. For the poor, however, this was out of reach. Many would opt for simpler burial practices, sometimes simply wrapping the body in cloth and burying it in the desert to naturally preserve the corpse. But as the practice became more widespread, the cost of mummification began to decline. While the rich could afford grand tombs and sarcophagi, the poor had to make do with less. The mummification process itself, though, remained central to the Egyptians' belief in the afterlife, which was a complex and deeply spiritual part of their culture. The Curse of King Tut. The famous Curse of King Tutankhamun is one of the most well-known hoaxes in history. When Howard Carter discovered King Tut's tomb in 1922, it was filled with treasures that no one had seen before. However, the idea that anyone who disturbed the tomb would be cursed was later debunked. Carter himself lived for many decades after the discovery. Yet, the mystery surrounding King Tut's burial is far from solved. Tut was the only pharaoh mummified with a pitching tent, an erect posture that some believe was not originally his. The true identity of the mummy inside the tomb remains a point of contention. Some historians believe the embalming team swapped Tut's remains with those of another more impressive donor. Gender fluidity in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt had a flexible view of gender. Myths featured gods who changed genders, reflecting a belief that identity was not fixed, even in the afterlife where women were thought to transform into men after death. This fluidity extended to rulers. Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs, adopted masculine symbols like the false beard to assert authority. Their culture reveals a more nuanced and less binary understanding of gender than often assumed. And there you have it, some of the most bizarre and downright disgusting secrets of ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed uncovering these shocking historical facts, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating and quirky videos about history's wildest moments.